12th, 2018. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Los Angeles Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Let the record reflect Commissioner Sobroff, Johnson, Figueroa Villa, and Goldsmith are present, and we have a quorum.
Okay. Do we have any on consent agenda items 1A through J? Do we have any comments?
We have one card on 1G.
Okay.
I'll move items 1A, B, C, D, E, F, H, I, and J then, please.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The comment on 1G, please.
We have Adam Smith,
Mr. Smith?
and this is relative to audio and video recording equipment donated valued at $11,962.50.
Morning, sir.
Good morning. I don't know if the rules have changed, but from what I understood, for these donations that are above $10,000, they have to be approved by Public Safety Committee and the mayor. And this one doesn't say anything about that, and it's specifically troubling because it's, audio and video recording equipment for a narcotics unit with the potential for abuse. And so if this is the only body that's looking at that donation, it seems to be a problem. I don't know if that policy has changed or if I have it wrong in my head, but I thought it was any donation above 10,000.
Mr. President, Mr. Smith, the amount is increased each fiscal year by the CAO's office, the City Administrative Officer. The amount now is just under $18,000.
Okay, so as long as if the Newton Division Narcotics Unit gets another donation within the fiscal year of $6,000 and change to meet that 18,000, is it only per one donation at a time?
It deals with each individual donation, sir. It's not a cumulative total. It's an individual donation.
Okay.
If
Well,
it's under that $18,000 threshold,
Right.
the approval and acceptance is by the Board of Police Commissioners. Over that amount, it has to go to Public Safety Committee and then to City Council for approval. This would not qualify for that.
Gotcha. It's interesting.
A motion for approval of the items.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Let's begin with regular agenda items. We have a presentation by the HRC.
Well, why don't can we get rid of the...
Want to do? Okay. So let's, on items number C, let's do items number C and D next.
I don't think we need a report on items 2, C, or D. Any of the other commissioners want to report or have any
I don't.
questions?
I'm fine with those.
So I'll move items 2C and 2D then.
We don't have any comments on public
No,
comment on
sir.
either of those? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so let's go back to 2A.
Mr. President, item 2A is before you today. As a request from your subcommittee dealing with bias policing, Commissioner McLean-Hill and Commissioner Goldsmith have worked on this with the Human Relations Commission, and the proposal before you today is to have the Human Relations Commission working with the Police Commission sponsor 2 community dinners to gain some input from the community members. And I will now turn the microphone over to either Commissioner McLean-Hill or Commissioner Goldsmith if they wish to make some comments prior to the staff from HRC, Human Relations Commission, who are present.
Thank you, and I apologize for being late. I would simply like to say that I'd like to thank the Human Relations Commission representatives for being here today and coming forward with this proposal and presentation, and also as Mr. Tiefenk has outlined, underscore their hard work and their willingness to come forward to assist us as we continue to explore issues around public trust. Thank you.
I'm Francisco Ortega, Director of the Human Relations Commission. How are you, Commissioners? Thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning and really present this program to you. We, of course, as you know, we've been active for a long time in helping to mitigate some of those tensions that arise occasionally and often in communities that feel often that they don't have that connection to the Los Angeles Police Department. In part, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pass it over to our staff who've really been hands-on on this project, try to really promote, in a sense, this idea that there are sectors in the city that don't get that attention, that don't get that direct, that we're not really looking at. And so this project, this pilot project, is really looking at trying to assess in a way, right, to get some data that often we don't get. And we're doing it in a way structured like the Embrace LA dinners that we had in April. So I'm going to turn it over to Mara Berger, who's really been spearheading this in our shop.
Thank you,
Morning.
Francisco.
Thanks for coming.
Good morning. Thank you, commissioners. As Francisco already mentioned, the Human Relations Commission has a longstanding history of being a neutral agency that can talk about race and have open dialogues. And in the spirit of the recent Embrace dinners, which were incubated out of the Human Relations Commission, we thought that this is a model that would also be useful in having discussions to open up conversations in community. So in the proposal, which you should all have in front of you, we outline a pilot program that we hope can be replicated down the road, depending on how this round goes. The idea would be to provide intimate conversation settings for different communities that we'd like to hear from, so that we can gather community-sourced input and community-sourced data that can then be turned into recommendations from the Human Relations Commission. This can be we plan on gathering this information and turning it into a formal report back where we can share what conversation happens, what input we gather, and if anything, to make sure that there's a new and innovative approach to civic engagement that really allows us to think more creatively about how we hear from communities on these issues. So if we can answer any questions, we'd be happy to do so.
How are you recruiting the participants?
Sure. We've actually been working through our partnerships around the community that we're already working with, but we've also asked our commissioners to do outreach in their respective communities. And one of the things we've emphasized is that we'd like to hear from some of the folks who don't typically get a voice heard. So we're looking for average community members as well, not your usual suspects.
I have a question regarding the funding. I didn't know if you got it, you didn't get it, who's doing it, who isn't doing
They don't have it yet, but they will have it by the end of the week.
it? Okay.
Yeah, part of the agreement or the proposed relationship would be that we can put together the dinners themselves. We'll handle the logistics
Saw that.
and the space, but
Saw
the funding we don't have yet.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like just as another just sort of input, I know that in the next couple of weeks, we'll be getting back, I would expect, results from the survey that the department has conducted. And this particular effort is really, from my perspective, something that it's another way of understanding what the disconnects may be between the department and certain communities that consistently show up as less than satisfied with some of our efforts, so that it can inform some of the approaches that we use in order to overcome that persistent negative feedback. So again, I'm excited that the Human Relations Commission is taking this on. I think it's particularly important that it be independent of this commission, because it will, I think, allow for a different kind of dialogue and perhaps feedback that that will deepen our understanding of some of the challenges that we face.
I just wanted to add, commissioners, that the structure of the focus group or the dinner, as we were are similar to what happened at the Embrace dinners, which is that we have a guided facilitator who's going to facilitate. There are questions that we obviously are going to frame in a way that allows us to really allow for free flow and organic conversations about this relationship. So we're excited about mounting this effort, and we hope at some point we can incubate this as we've incubated Embrace LA to sort of be more citywide effort at some point. So this is why we're engaged in this process with you. So thank you.
I just want to thank you as well for all the hard work and time and effort and intentionality you've put into this, and the care you've taken to produce something that I think gives us an opportunity to go really deep, and appreciate Commissioner McLean-Hill's leadership, as this is largely her brainchild. And, you know, with the community surveys, that helps us see where trust is high and where it's low. And I hope that these conversations can help us find ways to delve into communities where trust is low, to figure out, you know, what are those experiences, what are those perceptions, and what can we do to build trust? As we all know, that's critical to public safety. So I'm looking forward to the pilot and supporting it however I can, and to the feedback that we get as a result.
Do we have any public comments on this item?
We have none, sir.
Okay. Let's go to, thank you very much, everyone.
I think we do need to move
Oh,
it.
Okay. So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. On item B, I just have one quick question of, is anybody here on B, on the contract? Nobody's
Here we
here?
come.
Oh. Okay, it's a quick one. It says that there's no increase in the fee schedule. My question is it the same rate also? Or the fee schedule is one thing, but is the hourly rate, or however it was, is it the same? And the
Yes, sir.
extension?
Yes,
Okay.
it's the same. They're just carrying it on. We're continuing everything as it's been.
Same way. Okay, good. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Any public comments on 2B?
We have none, sir.
Okay. I'll move approval of item 2B.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We go to 2D, the body-worn video audit.
2E.
2E.
Sorry, 2E from Central Bureau. Morning.
Good morning, sir.
I see Dan sitting out there. You're not a part of the, just keeping him in line? Okay. Okay. Morning. Do we have, we've read the report. Are there questions on the?
I have one question. So I was in reviewing the audit on page 5 of the report. There's a list of exceptions, and one of the exceptions is a witness or victim refuses to provide a statement if recorded, and the encounter is non-confrontational. So I was curious. So that is a witness or a victim to a particular crime. That has nothing to do with a stop, right? That's if there's a.
It could be related to an investigation.
An investigation.
And
Okay.
if it's sensitive in nature.
Can you
then-
speak into the mic?
Well, if it's sensitive in nature and they don't feel comfortable, a lot of the times if they express that they don't want to be recorded, then we respect
Got
that.
it. Okay. Understood.
That can be officer-generated or a citizen-generated call.
Okay.
I can't open mine, but there was one area of the audit.
There was one area of the audit with respect to the documentation of inspection and testing of equipment that was 76% compliance.
Yes, sir.
And was there a recommendation with respect to that?
And can you identify yourself for the record? Can you please identify yourself? Ma'am?
Police Performance Auditor 3, Monica Strader.
Thank you.
Police Performance Auditor Sice. There are no recommendations, sir, because again, we have all the criteria, which is policies and procedures that are in place. However, I believe that they might, Central Bureau might have some comment as to what they're doing about that.
Yes, sir. Commander Leslie, Central Bureau. What we were doing already was building our body-worn video DICV unit to full strength. It's now at 5 with the supervisor and 4 other employees, 3 non-sworn and 1 sworn. We did a internal audit immediately after these results came out, and then we did we do a monthly audit now. I'm happy to say, as of DP3, which was the results of our last audit, we're at 96% for that specific point.
That's great. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Anyone? Okay, do we have any public comments? Thank you.
Yes, sir, we have two. We have General Jeff and Jonathan Fester. Jonathan Foster, I apologize.
I thought the general was here. Thank you. God bless. Father God, thank you for today, and thank you for your son, and protect us all, Father God. And the body worn cams are really awesome. And I'd like to say things I've never heard at a police department, and maybe for LA. How do we make LA the only city where there are no shootings? I'd love to see that. And this body worn, audit for video is unfortunate. It's, but I think in America this is getting to be an exceptional light that's shown on the police department. That's not as bad as everybody says it is. And however, it is not said that we're going to make LA the only city in America that doesn't shoot people, so that we have to have an audit to look at the video to see what the discrepancy is. This is what's called real leadership. Now, I know I don't walk the streets. I don't ride around in the cars that don't have air conditioning that went on when Mr. Beck got on the police force. But what we have here is an opportunity where we're auditing video. A problem went down, and we got to check it. And I want to know, when is LA going to become the only city in America that doesn't shoot any longer? Doesn't shoot. It can shine, and we won't have to do an audit. I love you guys so much, but I don't hear the right thing. God bless.
Thank you. Jeff? Morning, sir.
Morning, sir. General Jeff Skidrow, sir. I have not. I apologize. I have not reviewed the report yet. I hope it's in the back of the room. But thank you to Frank. But I didn't hear any recommendations put forth by the presenters, so I will offer my recommendation where there is still time for this commission to change, in terms of auditing, change the structure to where officers write their reports prior to reviewing the body-worn video. It is very detrimental to the process to allow officers to review the body-worn video prior to them writing their reports. That is one layer of transparency and accountability that we, the people of the city of Los Angeles, we feel definitely needs to be invoked and enacted, and we feel that this is something that needs to be put forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
And we have no other comment cards?
Okay.
I'll move approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Chief, welcome, sir.
Morning, Commissioners. A couple of things to comment on. I was not at your last Tuesday's meeting. In the interim between my last appearance in front of you, I attended Major City Chiefs Conference in Nashville and the Police Executive Leadership Forum in the same city. Top 65 cities in America attended that. Discussions on policing nationally, and spent a lot of time with Chicago and New York, and also had a lot of other folks within the department attend, including Chief Moore. Also, this past Friday, attended at USC our Leadership Education Development graduation. Our first graduating cohort was 20 Los Angeles police officers of various ranks that graduated a program that is designed to interact with the community and build trust. They developed, each of them developed a curriculum that was part of their grade that was intended to build trust in the community, and some of those curriculum are being instituted in the department in various commands as we speak. The good thing is that we have the next cohort, and we have over 40 applicants for that leadership program. So, new leadership program within the department, co-sponsored by SC, and promising results. 2 officer-involved shootings occurred this past week, both in Hollenbeck. I will give you brief details. Both of these officer-involved shootings have body-worn video attached. Both of them fall under the new guidelines, and both of them will be briefed more completely at a later date. First, June 8th, Hollenbeck GED officers arrested Omar Magna for assault with a deadly weapon and transported him to Hollenbeck Station for booking. While inside a holding cell, Magana showed signs of having a seizure and was subsequently transported by a rescue ambulance to White Memorial Hospital. At some point during his medical evaluation, Magana was handcuffed to a gurney and wheeled into a room for a CT scan. At the request of the technician in the room, the officers unhandcuffed Magana. Immediately following the procedures, as the officers were in the process of re-handcuffing Magana to the gurney, he attacked the officers and attempted to remove the firearm from one of the officers' holster. An officer-involved shooting occurred, and Magana was struck by gunfire. He was immediately treated in the ER of White Memorial Hospital and later transferred by RA to USC Medical Center, where he succumbed to his injuries. Force Investigation responded and is handling the investigation. On June 9th, at 23:45, Hollenbeck officers responded to a radio call of a stabbing that had just occurred in the 2400 blocks of Gate Street. When the officers arrived at scene, they could see a suspect, later identified as Victor Arroyo, through a locked security screen door. He was armed with a knife and in a physical struggle with a person that was later identified as his father. When the officers eventually made entry into the residence, they attempted to de-escalate the situation. They utilized less lethal munitions, which were ineffective. Arroyo advanced towards his father and attempted to stab him once again with a knife, and an officer-involved shooting occurred at that point, and Arroyo was struck by gunfire. He was subsequently transported to USC Medical Center, and he is expected to survive. He was booked for attempted murder. His father was not seriously injured during the incident, and a knife was recovered at scene. The individual Arroyo stabbed prior to the officer's arrival was later determined to be his brother-in-law. That individual sustained a laceration to his neck and was transported by a private vehicle to USC Medical Center. He underwent surgery and is also expected to survive. On the crime front, as you know, we measure 8 categories of Part 1 crime. We measure 11 categories of gang-related crime and 2 shooting categories, victims shot and victims shot at. For the first time in a number of months, maybe even 2 years, every one of these categories is down as compared to last year. All 20 categories, actually 21 categories, are showing reductions as compared to last year. Homicides are down 8.7%, rapes are down 15%, robberies down 2%, ag assaults down 2.1%, burglaries down 7.9%, motor vehicle thefts down 9.5%, burglary theft from vehicles down 1.5%, and personal theft others down 0.5%. Total Part 1 crime picture is a minus 3.6%. Number of victims shot is down 23.2%. Every category, as I said, of gang-related crime is down, and total gang crime is down 24.3%. Calls for service, radio calls, 911 calls are actually up almost 8%, and that is 23,000 more 911 calls than we'd had at this time last year. Guns recovered are also up 3.5% over last year and almost 20% over our 5-year average. Traffic collisions are down in the city of Los Angeles, down almost 5%. And of particular note, fatal traffic collisions are down 2.9%. We're making good progress on motor vehicle versus pedestrian accidents. The fatalities are down 17%. Unfortunately, bicycle-involved fatalities are almost double what they were last year, 9 this year compared to 5 at this time last year. Personnel on payroll, we have 10,037 sworn personnel on payroll, almost 3,000 civilian personnel, which is a significant increase over what we had earlier in the year, and 1,799 cadets in our program. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any commissioner questions of the chief? Do we have any public comments on item number 3?
Yes, sir. We have 6 cards. We have General Jeff, Reverend Mello Desire, and Adam Smith.
Good morning, General Jeff from Skid Row. Once again, we hear this report from the lame duck chief who's got 2 meetings left. It's time to move forward, move this city forward. It's amazing how in his report today, you can hear how he quickly responded to a OIS, officer-involved shooting that happened within the week, but he was slow to speak to the 22 minutes of missing video from the Waukesha Wilson in custody death. There's been zero impetus from this commission or from the chief as well to speak to that, to address that. We, the public, we still want to see an investigation, a thorough investigation into what happened to the 22 minutes of missing video, much more further than, it was just deleted. I'm sure there is the server can be mitigated to where the information can be extracted, and so there's still problems with that. We need to move that forward. We, the people, will not let that die. 22 minutes of missing video. What happened to it? It's 2 things. One thing is to see the 22-minute video. There's a whole nother of missing video. The other thing is to actually find out what happened, why it was deleted, and what protections are being invoked for the future so that to prevent future deletions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Usually I'm at the County Board of Supervisors, but I had to come today. On Saturday, I conducted an interview. It was a private interview with KTLA concerning our boys, Lamarion Upchurch and Monier Jackson, who were murdered on Mother's Day off Manchester in Vermont. These 2 boys were dancers. They were aspiring football players, and they were snuffed out by Mexican gang members. All of a sudden, the officers that were supposed to be going over this case were transferred. So we already know this inside information of what's happening for a release of 17 Latino gang members to suddenly be released 2 weeks later. There is an onslaught, deliberate attempt to execute especially our black boys and girls in South LA. And Monier and Lamarion can't speak no more. There were only 15, and their only crime was walking the streets of Manchester, Vermont, and we can't get answers. The day after that interview, which was supposed to be a private interview, I'm traveling to Amtrak to do a press conference, and then I get stopped by police who threatened to arrest me, told me that I'm trespassing on private property. This is Metro and Amtrak, for God's sakes. And I asked specifically, why are you trying to arrest me? Spoke to a supervisor, I got their badge number, and to this day, they still can't tell me why they're approaching me. But I find it very funny, the day after I do this interview and start calling out some names, all of a sudden I'm being threatened to arrest with still no answer. We need answers for our boys, but more importantly, we need you to put youth centers in that corner of Manchester, Vermont. All we're asking is for these doors to open. The churches are not doing nothing. So we're asking for the police department to please put a portion of our tax dollars into a youth center so we have no more casualties. I'm not trying here to speak anymore because it doesn't matter what happens. Our kids are being target practiced. But for me to get arrested just for speaking up for our boys is deplorable. This is for Cynthia, Charlie, and Matthew. For the rest of you, I don't have copies to waste.
Adam Smith, please, followed by Valerie Rivera.
So a year ago today was the first police commission meeting after Eric Rivera was killed. And what we know in that year is that, from the chief's own words, the two officers went right back to work. One of the officers in the report that was released with your ruling in April, in that report, one of the officers supposedly thought maybe he was shot, sustaining some kind of arm injury when he fell out of his car that he didn't put in park. And, you know, we listen to this chief's report every week, and we've brought it up that this is the narrative that gets fed to this room. And I speak specifically to any media in the room. His narrative isn't the narrative, but it's the one that everyone prints. It's the one that everyone puts out there on the news. In his own words, last year, a year ago today, 1 week after Eric Rivera was killed, we know that he had already sent the two officers back to work. And Chief Beck, in his own words, I quote, "One of the officers sustained an arm injury, probably because of the action of the vehicle, but we are not sure at this point." So how did he send the two officers back to work if he didn't know how the officer had injured his arm? That's it just doesn't make any sense, and I hope that this board and I hope that the media holds Chief Moore to a higher standard, because you obviously don't hold Beck to any standard.
Valerie Rivera, please. Followed by Jonathan Foster and Jamie Garcia.
Morning.
Good morning. Can I get the public comments 2 minutes right now too, please? So I could just get it out the way.
Sure.
Thank you. It's never easy to come in here every week, you know, but I do it for my son Eric because he wasn't supposed to be taken that day, and those cops weren't supposed to go back to work the next day. Charlie Beck even said himself that that cop jumped out of the car in such a hastily manner. And for this whole police commission board right here to think that it's okay with what they did to Eric, it's clear as day what they did to Eric. They murdered him. They executed him because of their mistakes. I don't know what was running through their minds that night. I do know that they were on the search for somebody that had just murdered a 17-year-old boy the night before Eric was killed. And I get that. I get that they were trying to hunt down the person that killed that innocent 17-year-old boy. But they went about it all wrong, and they took an innocent person that had nothing to do with that case. And for them to sit there and be such cowards and not man up to this, because it's clear as day, they messed up. And they should be man enough to sit there and say, hey, excuse my language, I fucked up. I'm not even going to get an apology from these people. And they're still working? You know, Charlie Beck, I've never met you before.
So we're going to do the extra 2 minutes now.
Thank you.
Okay.
I never even paid any mind to you while you've been in as chief of police until my son was taken. And I really was trying to hold you up as a respectable chief of police. Because I know you know they messed up. And for you to just think it's okay to let them go back. Like, how did they jump out of their car in a hastily manner, you said? That's a pretty strong word, hastily. And then jump out with both of them having their guns drawn on my son. Trip and fall because the car is moving so fastly when they jumped out and didn't put it in park. Hit his elbow on the ground, call in like a crybaby that he is. Tell his partner, I don't know if I'm shot, man. I don't know if I'm shot. How the hell do you not know you're not shot? He hit himself on the street with his own fuck up. because he tripped over his own damn 2 feet for jumping out of a moving car. And because of that fuck up, by not putting that car in park and crying to his partner saying, I don't know if I'm shot. No, motherfucker, you fell because you jumped out of a moving car, causing your partner to then shoot my baby down. And the thing that hurts and bothers me so much is I don't even know when that headshot was. I don't know if they shot him while he was coming down or if that headshot was after the fact when they pinned him under their bumper. Because there's no videos you guys are releasing to me. And the stupid body cam that you guys are discussing about is being blocked by their arm and their car door. And as far as I knew, once those lights turn on, those dash cams turn on automatically.
Thank you.
So I'm demanding those videos because I have the right to see what happened to my baby that night.
Thank you.
Jonathan Foster.
And then there are 3 more after.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Douglas
There's
Foster.
one more
Thank you
after
so much. I didn't serve in the United States military, but I did come out of a family that has 60 straight years to the United States military. And if I add everybody up, it's over 160 years of service. And I am going to do to you what we just did to Kim Jong-un. This thing is going to break. I'm breaking the police commission. I'm the smartest, strongest, most powerful man on earth, and you are going to break, just like Kim Jong-un. I am going to, with the federal government, change this, because this isn't shooting anymore. It probably will today.
You know,
But
we're on the
we
report,
have the
we're on
option
the
to
report
not
of the
shoot.
chief of police.
Yeah, he said there was a knife, and a knife isn't a gun. They had a guy. You shot a guy with a knife. It's not a gun. He was not shot at. Why did he shoot? You could. It's unfortunate that the federal government can't account for $45 trillion, or you could hire every officer you need, and we could send out 8 officers instead of sending out 1 who has to pull the gun to save his life. And this is wrong. And how long have you been doing this? Since 75? It's changing. This is going to change. LA is going to become the first city in the United States of America that does not shoot. I don't know how long it's going to take, but you didn't do it. I did. Toilet Garcetti did not. I did. This is changing. When in the Star Wars movie, when Darth Vader does this to the one little guy and he's got him up in the air and he's choking him to death and he kills him, I got you by the neck now. I don't have to put up with this. This lady lost her son. You want to lose your son?
Next speaker.
Jamie Garcia, please.
Is the last speaker on the chief's
Yes, sir.
report? Okay. Ms. Garcia.
So in a report again, we get that there's an investigation about an officer-involved shooting. And we got told that there's body-worn video as well about this. But it seems like in the explanation, we talk about what happens to the victim, the person who actually gets shot, what they're doing. We get told that they reach for the officer's gun. We get told that they escalate the situation, but we never get told what the officers were doing. What were the officers doing that actually led to that situation to occur? And so this is very significant, because what's the point of the video then? If you're not going to comment on what the officers did and only comment on what happened to the victim or what the victim did, then it's kind of like this biased reporting, and this is what the media picks up, and that's how the person gets criminalized. They get spoken about as being a gang member, as if that's an excuse or a reason why they should be shot. And hospitals should be a place of safety. There was a move to actually make it so no weapons could actually enter a hospital. So what would have happened if that escalation would have occurred and the officers didn't have a gun? Then it would have to have been dealt with the de-escalation that is so proudly spoken about in this room that officers have some type of training in. And then The piece about this that was so upsetting to find out on Monday morning when I arrived to work at White Memorial was that this actually happened in my hospital. And the other part that was disturbing about it, or maybe interesting about it, is that people turned to me and said, "What are you going to do, Jamie? This is the work that you do. What are you going to do?" And it's like you realize how tired you are. You go into work, not only are you dealing with the lack of resources that the hospital has, especially being in Boyle Heights, the poverty that's there, but then you realize that people enter into this space of safety where we have things called like the healing garden, and they're actually shooting our patients.
Next speaker, please.
We have no other speakers on this item. We're now on item number 4, general public comment. We have 8 cards. We have Audrey George, followed by Adam Smith and Minister Victoria Hare. Here.
While. So I forgot what it's like to be in front of a commission that treats the very few people who can come here at this time on Tuesday mornings as second-class citizens at best. I sit and I watch Shane and Cynthia and Steve and others sipping from their water on this warm day. And how do you feel about the fact that none of us in the audience, except those members of the community dinner pilot program presentation, are allowed to sit here and sip even once from a cup or a bottle of water? We're prevented from bringing them in. And that's just wrong and reinforces the memory I have of being here. I want to talk about this commission. This is not a commission of the community. Charlie Beck had it right when he was on radio and said, "My commission." How does that feel? Did any of you even flinch upon hearing that? You have the same agenda as the LAPD chief. You are his commission. How does it feel when every time families go before civil jury, they get awarded millions of dollars for policies you verified with the LAPD were in policy? Clearly, the community doesn't agree. I also want to talk to you about your finding about the helicopter, which I wish I could find admirable that this was out of policy. When we had the same arguments about the drones, you found the shooting from the helicopter to be out of policy when they murdered somebody. We had the same argument about the drones that you totally ignored. And I also object to being called a usual suspect just because I come here.
Next speaker, please.
Adam Smith.
Next speaker.
Yeah, as someone that comes regularly and regularly brings my children, today we came on the bus from West LA. My daughter was tired. I carried her most of the way here from Spring and Temple Street. And to not be able to bring water in here is pretty fucking ridiculous. I don't know what the basis is. I know that Ashy Charlie's worried about things, but I don't understand what water has to do with the incident that he's so afraid of the community about. Thanks, I appreciate it. But going back to the killing of Eric Rivera, I'm still wondering how, obviously y'all found it in policy, and I brought it up last week. Beck wasn't here, so I'll bring it up again. The Special Order 49 or 45, I think, that is the that was approved by this commission in 2009 about how a dash cam is activated and the circumstances in which it is activated. And according to the report, it wasn't on the 2 officers that killed Eric Rivera. And so were they held accountable for that at least? We don't know. Obviously they were back to work, so it wasn't that big of a deal to you all. And I know that obviously, was it 2013 when in South LA when officers damaged or manipulated 100 dash cams in their cars. So there's like a long history of this, and it's really troubling that a 20-year-old kid can die for no reason, but officers that apparently don't even follow the most simple of rules there's no accountability for that.
Minister Victoria Hare, followed by Reverend Dr. Mello Desire and General Jeff.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Luke 17:11. It talks about how 10 lepers were healed and only one turned back to say thank you. I don't want to be like the 9 that kept going. I wanted to take the time to come in and say thank you for your help with the aggressive pit bulls on Skid Row. Thank you to the commission. Thank you to Channel 7 and everyone who was involved. There is a noticeable difference. Yes, I took a little bit of heat for it. I've even heard people say, "Here comes the pit bull lady." But that's okay, as long as you keep your dogs on the leash. So I have 3 other topics that I want to come back and discuss. So I will see you next week, and thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
I wanted to continue on with solutions for
Will you
our
identify
youth.
yourself for us? I'm sorry.
Reverend Dr. Mello Desire.
Okay.
Saturday, July 28th on Manchester, Vermont, that property lot is empty. They bulldozed it, and the county took it over to build low-income housing or whatever mishmash project they're saying. What we want is to have a screen. We want to have a stage. We want to have a dynamite sound system and some chairs. And we want to have a huge screen to put the pictures of Eric Rivera, Anthony Weber, Brian Shustari, Lamarion Upchurch, and Monier Jackson, just to name a few of preventable deaths of our young people gone too soon. We have adults who are taking up space, who are complaining, doing nothing in the community, and these young, thriving kids are cut short simply because of selfishness and misappropriation of our tax dollars. Now, for me to speak and then today almost be tackled and arrested, never having a criminal record, and still to this moment, I need to know why. Not all police are bad, but you have some of you that are a little extra, and you overshadow the good ones. But the behavior today from LAPD Metro, to me, with no reasoning, changed my perspective on law enforcement completely. I don't know what's going to happen when I walk out these doors. But for these officers, Stephen and Cordoba and Sorvaso, who took it upon themselves to not even allow me to walk away from whatever they were trying to tell me, still I need to know why. Law enforcement should be there to protect and serve. We have a solution, we have a date, and we'd like to have you out there to support the community. This is a start. I'm not here complaining. We have a solution and we have a date and we need you there. We have plenty of finances from LAPD Foundation. Use a portion of it to please build a youth creative center. They have none. They're more than jailbait and target practice. Please, are here for the community. Thank you.
Have you been up to Expo Center, which is a few blocks from there?
Expo Center on where?
It's on MLK in Vermont?
Yes.
Okay.
What's there?
All the facilities that you're talking about.
So the kids who can't travel 6 blocks because of colors, they don't have no resources. Manchester, Vermont, Imperial, they have nothing beyond that.
Well, there are buses from schools and from churches that go.
Churches, the same churches that never open their doors during the week. Is that the same churches you're talking about?
Thank you.
Okay, provide the buses and we'll talk.
Thank you. The next speaker, please, General Jeff, followed by Jonathan Foster.
Jeff?
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Commission. General Jeff Skid Row. Excuse me, my allergies are going acting up a little bit. I sure wish I had some water. We have an outgoing chief. We have an incoming chief. There's a wonderful opportunity for this commission to put forth a document that publicly that we, the people, can review in terms of our new expectations of the incoming chief. We, the people, would like to add on and put forth to this commission to add on to what you're going to put forth in your expectations, because apparently, obviously, there are differing expectations. So we definitely feel that not only needs to be put forth, but put forth publicly. For instance, I mentioned last week, I'll mention it again, there are a lot of overweight, not of shape Los Angeles Police Department officers. There's a big problem with that and a big concern, because with them being out of shape, they cannot pursue on foot. Apparently, they're not making adequate decisions. The blood is not circulating to the brain where the brain is getting enough oxygen so they can make the appropriate decisions. It's driving up, it's costing taxpayer funding in terms of lawsuits, in terms of medical health benefits and needs. And so the new chief hopefully will come in with a better exercise regimen. That's all I got. Thank you.
Next speaker, Jonathan Foster, followed by Teresa Akins and Michael Williams.
Hi again, Jonathan Foster. Trump brought the crime down. I know you guys are reporting lower numbers, but it's because we have actual, almost true leadership in the White House. It's not really that true. And the police department does not have an easy job, does it? When you get around some unruly person that you hit with beanbags and you try to taser, and then he's coming at you with an ice pick or so, it's unbelievable what the human brain does. So it's not easy. But I am here because I love you more than you love yourselves. That's why I'm here. I love you more than you love yourselves. That you would let this happen to you. Why have you done so? Why have you let this happen to you? I wouldn't let this happen to me, but you people did. The de-escalation, where are the nets? After you de-escalate, instead of the gun, you could have hit him with nets. And they say, well, if a white guy does that, it looks like maybe he's trapping a black guy in a net. I know what the problems could be. But we'd have an alive person. Instead of having $45 trillion missing, we got 8 at a time going to deal with one guy who'd never, ever have to pull the gun unless he's shot. And then do you have to kill him? Where are the bulletproof cars for protecting you? Where's your head-to-toe body armor? I want to protect you so much. I love you more than you love yourselves. This never comes out of your mouths, does it? The stuff I say. I think you're burning in hell. Special Order 40. Yeah, it puts officers so they don't deport somebody's nephew. Because if the cop is a Mexican, they don't want to deport somebody's nephew. And it's been going on since 79. It's killing black people. It's killing mostly little kids, teenagers, and Mexicans. Special Order 40. Since Special Order 40 is killing its own Mexicans. I don't approve.
Teresa Akins.
I am really mad at SAG, Film LA, and Contract Services. They have been goofing around with me for many, many years. My ex-husband and all of my friends all worked in politics. My family immigrated with Lou Wasserman, and I've been constantly the target of jokes, arrests, and other problems. And, they're goofing around. It's really not funny. It's really not fair. I'm tired of screaming at internal affairs, blaming people who are not, and talking to people who aren't responsible for these problems. It is an entertainment industry problem. There is no such thing as Me Too because it didn't happen to many of the SAG members and actresses who are saying that they were assaulted sexually and physically. I personally was sexually assaulted through Film LA and the aforementioned people 70 times, 139 times. I was made homeless. I can go on, but LAPD knows my story, and so does County Council, who has now asked me to find a lawyer and sue them. I don't have the capacity even really to be here and to do public speaking. Never wanted anything, okay? But I'm stuck. And I'm stuck in South LA, thank goodness, because actually my church is doing something. And we do have the space for that lady and her issues. But I would like to stop screaming, and I am hoping that I can get through one day.
Thank you.
Michael Williams, please.
This is the first time I get to comment on what happened with Eric Rivera, and that decision is wholly ridiculous. It's wholly ridiculous. You know, you guys, when I tell my friends about the decisions y'all making here, right? And these are college kids. These are kids that are getting college educations, going on to get doctorates and things like that, and they're smart kids, honors kids. And when they hear the decisions that y'all make on some of these issues, I don't even say anything. I just hand them the article about what happened. I don't even say anything. And when they read the articles about the decisions y'all make, they're like, what the hell are they thinking? How the hell did they come up with that kind of decision? It's ridiculous. And you guys are in this bubble of police and people who are police apologists, and you guys hear all this good stuff about you guys self, and you don't hear what actual people who actually look at what you guys are doing are seeing from your commission. Because people who are actually looking at what you guys are doing are questioning it. And the thing about it is that, you know, we come to this commission and we complain and we talk and we argue and we yell and we scream. And the thing about it is that there's only a matter of time before the kids that I'm talking to, right? These kids that are going to become lawyers, politicians, are going to become in charge of you guys at some point, shut this thing down. Because they're looking at the decisions you're making and then questioning it and saying this doesn't make any kind of sense. Because any rational person that looked at Eric Rivera's case would know that made no sense why that young man had to die. Not only did he have to die, but he had to suffer in death. And you guys said that was in policy.
Next speaker, please.
We have no other speakers for general public comment.
Okay.
We're now in closed session. We do have a card for 5B and 5C, and they're both from General Jeff.
Okay, and nothing for 5A?
No, sir.
Okay, great. Let's go 5B and 5C. Jeff, you can do them next to each other.
First.
Go ahead.
Because it doesn't specifically say what the items are pertaining to. Just like in A, there is more of an identification in terms of what it's specifically to. This is vague. Hopefully you can change your policy, because I just put forth official complaints, multiple complaints against the chief of police, Chief Beck, and while it says chief of police, I don't know if this is my item or not. And so it's kind of hard for me to speak to something that's going to be in closed session when I can't even weigh in. I don't know if it's my matter or not. Is there any kind of way that I can be notified of whether this is my item or not?
It is not your item.
Thank you. Nothing further on either.
Okay, we have no other comment cards. The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss items numbers 5A, 1, 2, 3, 5B, 5C in accordance with Government Code 54957. The Board of Police Commissioners has concluded its work in closed session. We are back in open session. The Executive Director will report out.
Item 5A1 OIS 04617, tactics. Chief's recommendations adopted with the exception of one lieutenant that was found out of policy. That vote was 3-1. Drawing and exhibiting, Chief's recommendations adopted unanimously. 4-0. Less lethal use of force, Chief recommendation adopted unanimously. 4-0. Lethal use of force, Chief's recommendations adopted as amended. 1 police officer, 3 out of policy. And that was a 3-1 vote. As to case 5A2, officer involved shooting 048-17, Chief's recommendations adopted unanimously. Case 5A3, OIS 049-17, continued to next Tuesday, June 19th, 2018. As to item 5AB, adjudicated. As to item 5AC, discussed. And that concludes the closed session report.
Motion for approval, motion for.
To adjourn?
Adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good, thanks.
Hi, I'm Cindy and I'm in Little Tokyo, and you're watching Channel 35, Your City, Your Channel.
In LA this week.
I'm Anna Margos. A bright spot on the horizon with the 2018 homeless census figures. Even though a record number of people became homeless, even more people were housed and put out of homelessness, bringing those numbers down. More on that coming up.
Around 8,000 kids taking part in beach cleanups across California.